Welcome in, everybody. If you're watching this, you're probably returning from our last video where we smacked another primetime parlay with a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. If this is your first time watching, welcome. We're going to do it again for you anyways. And today we got Thursday Night Football, Denver Broncos, and LA Chargers. Me and my man JJ are going to break down everything you need to know and give you guys another parlay at the end to help everybody make some money. Welcome in, everybody. JJ, how are we feeling after another green bean?
It almost felt like I had a little bit of a Christmas miracle with that block kick to seal the deal for us. That was
Man,
amazing.
I was so mad when they got the touchdown because, bro, the Raiders looked horrible all game. I was not sweating at all. And then suddenly, like, you realize we're in the fourth quarter and the Falcons still had, 12, 15 points. I
Mm-hmm.
take back everything that I said about Kirk Cousins. I was vouching for him, and I said, all right, we're overreacting. He'll be fine. He finally has a good matchup. That was horrible and unrelated to the game today, but he's no longer starting and for a good reason. But hey, green is green. You can call it lucky, but at the same time, the first 6 weeks of the season, we had the worst luck I've ever seen and the worst beats. So, universe is coming back our way and favoring us, and we just have to hope it continues on today. But let's get into the game. We'll start on the Chargers side of things. JJ, what are you seeing so far?
Yeah, so honestly, I feel like it's gonna be a defensive game overall. Honestly, the Chargers, they did good last time, but we saw a lot of cover three from both teams. And is there a specific player you would say favors cover three?
I mean, for cover three, I tend to just think the wide receiver one on the team.
Yeah,
So, I for the
that
Chargers, I
seems
have
like the
to
natural
assume
thing.
McConkey. Yeah.
Yeah. And we just went over the film with McConkey. He had some good looks last time. Got banged up a little bit, but I think 8 targets, 43 yards. I
Yep.
think he could definitely improve on those numbers based off watching the film. He had a couple of unfortunate events within that game that he could have hauled in, but just didn't happen. I think he does it this time though.
Yeah, I think avoiding the Sertan matchup is definitely the big thing for him here. Sertan doesn't follow to the slot. 5% of his snaps this season have been covering the slot, so that's where McConkey primarily does his work. And we saw that last game when they matched up. I didn't realize this until we were watching the film and I recognized some of the plays that I was watching, but I did bet on McConkey in the last matchup for that reason. And I liked what I saw. He didn't hit. I think he only had 4 receptions, but that was his first game all season with 7+ targets and not 5 receptions. And on top of that, he got injured twice in the same game and then had a couple drops. So the game was there for him. It just everything that could have possibly went wrong in that game. But now, obviously, we're not going to assume he gets injured. Sertan's still not falling to the slot. Hayden Hurst might play, but now they're also missing Will Disley, so they need another target. And J.K. Dobbins is still out, so they can't run the ball 40 times again. They have to increase the passing rate a little bit, and I think that's going to favor McConkey a lot in this matchup. But I think he's the only target in this passing game on the Charger side. You can't. I was big on Stone Smart last game as a tight end filling in for Will Disley. With Hayden Hurst being a full participant in practice, I don't think we can trust that again, especially in what I think is a bad matchup for tight ends. And Quentin Johnson is going to get the Sertan matchup, so he's a viable under that you can bet on. And he's just not been great recently. So at that point, the only person left is Joshua Palmer, and he's like Christian Watson before Christian Watson somehow became good, where you're getting 2 deep targets. He's probably not catching either one of them. That's really the Joshua Palmer story this season. But that's all I had in the past game. I know Dobbins is out, but is there anything even worth talking about in the running game, really?
Honestly, not really. I see a lot of people fading Gus Edwards for good reason. But I don't think they'll be able to run the ball on them anyways. This Denver defense likes to blitz a ton. So it's probably gonna be a lot of gaps filled up for them, probably stack boxes. So yeah, I wouldn't trust the run game at all here.
No, I don't think you can. We could get into the rush scheme stuff and all that stuff, but no matter which way you cut it, you're looking at an efficient or an inefficient running back against a great defense across the board. It's just, in my opinion, it's not worth the headache, especially in a divisional game that's going to be gritty as hell. You're probably looking at 2.5 to 3.5 yards per carry, and that's just not going to be enjoyable to bet on. So we
Yeah.
can get to the other side of things. Denver Broncos. And the Chargers are missing one of their lead defensive backs. He missed 2 games. Looked like he came back from one, and now it's going to be out again today. And he was actually the one that shadowed Sutton and played a great game on Cortland Sutton last matchup, week 6. Didn't allow a single target to him. So could be big for Cortland Sutton, but that's really the only piece of information that I wanted to give you guys before I threw it to JJ. So what are you seeing in the pass game for the Broncos?
Yeah, with the pass game, I mean, Chargers defense, like I said earlier, they played a lot of cover 3, but overall, a lot of teams can sort of like attack this defense deep. Everything else, like short, middle of the field, as far as DVOA, they've been excellent this season. So usually that's going to be Cortland Sutton or Troy Franklin. Those guys, those are the deep threats there. With the DB out, I mean, they probably could target Cortland Sutton a few more times this game, but I might take a longer reception for one of those two, in my opinion.
100% agree. And I like Troy Franklin a lot. I think there was one point early in the season that I know it wasn't in the same matchup, but it was a primetime game. Everybody and their mom bet on Troy Franklin over 16.5 receiving yards. He soared over. His numbers haven't changed since then. So if anybody bet on that week where it was super popular, his air yards are still like 25 or more every single game. His route share is more or less the same every single game because there's still no Josh Reynolds. So his usage is more than there. He's had 5, 4, and 4 targets, or 5, 5, and 4 the last 3 games. So this is definitely a matchup we could see him exploit, especially because last game I think Bo Nix missed him for a touchdown, and it was like a yard too far, but Troy Franklin probably still should have caught it. And Bo Nix came out in the presser afterwards and said, "That was on me. I made his job way more difficult than it had to be, but he's gonna break out soon. I'm gonna hit him." So like, he didn't have to go out and say all that. Like, he could have just said, "Oh, that's on me." Troy Franklin did, but like to add all that extra detail, I feel is, for me, I think says a lot, especially for 2 guys that played in college together. So I think Bo Nix wants to find him, and Bo Nix has struggled the last few weeks. So I feel like going to his 2 guys, Sutton and Franklin, is going to be something he looks to lean on in this game.
I definitely agree there. What are you seeing in the run game?
McLaughlin's out, so we're looking at Javonte Williams and I still don't know how to pronounce his name. Estime, Audric, the rookie running back. I think he's going to get some usage, probably more than people want to think because it is a short week. But at the same time, I know a lot of people have just pivoted straight to his touchdowns because Sean Payton has talked about him a little bit in like big packages. But both of these teams allow a very low percentage of their touchdowns to be rushing touchdowns. So if you're betting on him, I'd just take his rushing yards. And I think there's more value in his props than Javonte Williams. And we've talked about it before. It's not fun betting on the Denver backfield because it's truly a running back by committee. It's whoever does the best on their first 2, 3 carries. That's who's getting the rest of the carries the rest of the game. So now that McLaughlin's out of the mix, I think it makes it a little bit more clear. And I'd go with the rookie.
Yeah, I agree there. I mean, because we were looking up Javonte's stats, and when I seen the Raider game a couple weeks ago, 7 carries for -2 yards is just diabolical.
The Brees Hall.
Yeah.
But, I mean, are you excited to bet on, even if you think they're getting the usage, do you like the matchup for either of them? Yeah.
I mean, they get a light box, but the Chargers deep, those guys just haven't been like great runners. Maybe if you can get him in this like esteem in space, maybe. But I mean, with Javonte, I don't know. I think they're losing all faith in him right now, honestly. And then trying to figure out what Sean Payton actually wants to do versus what he says is it's a game of cat and
Oh,
mouse.
you
You just
can't
never
trust the
know.
word that comes out of his mouth.
No.
I will say it does look like the Chargers, their yards per carry, both versus zone and man gap, are pretty average, but their success rate is really low allowed. So it kind of leads you to think they're allowing more chunk plays, like 7 to 12 yards. So they're either getting stuffed or they're getting like a good chunk of plays. That's hard to bet on because a guy gets stuffed at the line twice and you need 4 yards per carry, 5 yards per carry to hit your prop. You just lost out on 10 potential yards, and now you're just hoping and praying that their next one is a big chunk. Like, you're not betting on the course of a full game anymore. So the run game on both sides just doesn't seem enjoyable to bet on, if we're being honest.
Yeah. It almost feels like that in general for this game. Just as far as like based off matchups and the analytics and all that, it's very difficult.
This is gonna be. Everybody hated last Thursday Night Football because it was a horrible scoring offensive game when it wasn't supposed to be. Don't be surprised if we get a similar output here. Because both teams, Denver allows the lowest points per drive in the NFL. The Chargers are not far behind them at third. Both teams are lowest in touchdowns per drive. And usually when teams aren't allowing a lot of touchdowns, it means they're like you can only stop so many offenses. So usually you're giving up a lot of field goals. Neither team is allowing a crazy amount of field goals. I think the Broncos are like slightly below average. Both of them are slightly below average, but it's nothing crazy. And as far as turnovers per drive, I'm looking now. None of them are forcing a crazy amount of turnovers. Denver a little bit, but Herbert doesn't turn the ball over. Chargers might be able to get a short field or two with a turnover, just with how bad Bo Nix is playing, and they're right around average in turnovers per drive. So you could get some stops there, but it's just going to be an ugly, ugly game. Parlay time?
Let's get it.
All right. So we're going for another green bean. We're up like 17 units or whatever since October 21st on these. And we got another profit boost today, thanks to ESPN. ESPN's been printing for us, so why not go back to it? And the first leg is Ladd McConkey, 50-plus receiving yards. We talked about he avoids the Pat Surtain matchup, and he had a great game last matchup. He had 7 or 8 targets, even with being injured twice. And I think he dropped 2 balls that would have been like 20-yarders, and then he had a ball tipped at the line that would have been another catch and run in open field for another 20 yards. So the usage was more than there. The matchup is there. And I think 50 yards is very low and serviceable for McConkey. Next up, Chargers minus 2.5. We're fading a rookie quarterback on a short week in primetime against Justin Herbert, who's been a killer on Thursday Night Footballs, especially in the second. Like, the Chargers have seen him already early this season, and as a rookie, that's usually not what you want. So it just if we're taking Herbert or Bo Nix in a head-to-head, if it's a close game, I'm taking Justin Herbert every time. Next up, we have the Chargers over 1.5 success field goals. Dicker the kicker. I mean, he's about as reliable as it gets for 2 field goals. We talked about both of these defenses being really good, but at the same time, you can't keep Herbert down for 10 straight drives. If you're not going to give him a touchdown, he's going to get it into scoring position at least 2 or 3 times, and we can trust him to get 2 field goals here. And lastly, the under 48.5 points. We added this as an alt line mainly to get the boost on ESPN because it has to be plus 400 or more. But like we said, both these defenses are ridiculous. They're both allowing the first and third lowest points per drive in the NFL. You're asking a lot for this game to get to 50 points. So all that together is plus 475 without the boost, plus 618 with the boost. Put half a unit on it because that's what they maxed us out at. No lotto slip in this game just because it's going to be, I'm expected to be an absolute mess. Other than that, JJ, appreciate you as always. Any final words before we sign everything off?
Let's get another Christmas miracle in.
Let's do it. Hopefully we don't need a miracle this time, but let's definitely get a green slip. Appreciate everybody watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys on the next show.